So today, I want to share my personal story of how I came to have kidney failure, how I dealt with that kidney failure, which led us to this channel and led us to start transplantcoach.com, where we help other kidney patients get transplants faster by sending them to hospitals where the wait time is lower. Who knew? It changes based on where you live. So that's what we do. People can get kidney failure and kidney disease in a variety of different ways. Some people have genetic predispositions based on they're born and their family tree. Other people have diseases that they end up having that cause kidney failure, and for some, it can also be related to hypertension, blood pressure, diabetes, things of that nature. When I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with a super rare disease called Panda's disease. It's a form of strep, pediatric autoimmune neurological disorder in association with strep. It's quite a mouthful. Now, this super rare disease is not what caused my kidney failure, but it's what led the doctors to realize that I had a totally separate and also very rare condition that had apparently gone unnoticed from birth, and that's renal reflux. As we all know, we have our two kidneys. They have two ureters that go into the bladder. Kidneys generate urine. After they filter your blood, that urine goes in your bladder, and you go to the bathroom, right? Well, there are two valves where the ureters meet the bladder that prevent the urine from going backwards. Mine were defective. It was a birth defect. So throughout my childhood, silently in the background, without anyone knowing, I had this reflux problem where urine was continually coming backwards and smashing back up into my kidneys, which over time caused, essentially, it destroyed one whole kidney, and destroyed about a third of the other kidney. Now, we figured this out because at the same time that I went in for this treatment for Panda's disease, which was simply an antibiotic, I as well had a UTI. Kind of rare for kids to have consistent repeat UTIs where you have blood in the urine, it's painful to go to the bathroom. And so this led us down this medical journey as a 10-year-old to figure out what's going on. Was diagnosed with renal reflux, went into surgery a couple weeks later, and had it corrected. Essentially saved my life from going into acute kidney failure as a child. So we had the life-saving diagnosis, it worked out, and plenty of people have normal lives with just one kidney, right? That's the narrative, that's what we're told as a 10-year-old. Okay, so we move on. No contact sports, right? No football, even though I played it anyway. Probably shouldn't have, but, you know. Fast forward to age 18, and I start to develop gout flares. And usually when I say that, people are like, oh, my grandpa has that. It's like, well, yeah, you see it, I think, more often in older people, middle-aged people, and it's due to a buildup of uric acid in the body, which is normally filtered by the kidneys. Now, major contributors of and why most people have it anyway, in spite of kidney failure, is things like alcohol, red meat, shellfish. But otherwise, if you have diminished kidney function, you have kidney failure or kidney disease, then you can experience gout flares. So as an 18-year-old, some people get it in their toe, their knee, their ankle. I had it in my left ankle once every couple of months. It would swell up to the size of a grapefruit. It'd be extremely painful, and I would have to use crutches for a week. Start going to the different specialists now as a 19-year-old. And we finally make our way back to the kidney doctor. Kidney doctor says, Jacob, she looks at me and she says, it's no longer a question of if you'll need a kidney transplant. It's a question of when. And that begins the real journey. Now, there are different ways to measure kidney function. A very common one that's used is your filtration rate, because that's one of the primary functions of the kidneys, right? It's to filter our blood from toxins and release that as urine. Well, at the time as a child, my GFR was around 30. And now as a 19-year-old, we're watching it after this diagnosis, and we're seeing it now go from 30 to 27 to 25 to 22. And at 20, that's the big marker, because at 20, you now enter the kidney failure range. You become eligible to list in America for a kidney transplant, a deceased kidney transplant. And from age 19 to 22, we start preparing. And at age 23, I apply to be added to a list in New York City at Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan. Well, I get added, and it turns out, doctor, who's a great guy, he was with me the whole journey, he's like, the waiting time here is 5 to 7 years. I didn't have 5 to 7 years to wait. I had less than 1 year before I would have to go on dialysis. I had the fistula. You can still see the scar. That's what is used for dialysis. I didn't want to go on dialysis. No one in my life knew about the kidney failure except for a very select few people. And I didn't know what to do. So I start researching hospitals manually, one by one, across the country. I take the list of hospitals my insurance would cover. I take, there's a big Excel file I got from the federal government, their reporting arm for organ transplantation. And I start trying to figure out which hospital to go to. And I end up going to a hospital in Omaha, Nebraska, University Medical Center of Omaha. And Their wait time was averaging about 1.5 to 2 years. So my cumulative wait time ended up being about 1.5 years for a kidney transplant. And on December 12th, 2018, I get that phone call, 5 in the morning. And I remember I actually missed the initial phone call because I would wake up around 6:30. And so they called my dad, and I had 28 missed calls from my dad that day. So we pack our bags. I say, I go into work that day, stare at my computer monitor for 3 hours, not really doing any work, waiting for that. Like, we have an organ offer for you, Jacob, but it's stay tight, hang tight, because we can't give you the go ahead yet. Get that go ahead, zoom on over, all the stars align, and end up going into surgery around 3 a.m. later that day. And that experience, right? I missed starting dialysis, which, if you guys are seeing my content, you probably see other people's content. Lots of people, these warriors, show they show themselves dialyzing. It's extremely difficult. It's very tedious, time consuming. It causes a lot of fatigue. And I had this big vein. I had the graft, the fistula in my arm. And I was 1 week away from starting dialysis. I was admitted to that hospital with a GFR of 7. And so by some grace and blessing, I ended up getting that call a little early, went and had the surgery. And now let's fast forward a bit. We have a renewed sense of life. Super grateful. I'm like, what are we going to do with this? So we end up starting a company called Transplant Coach, which just takes the manual stuff that I did, that like months and months of researching, and we just put it all in one place on a website. So people can use that. They can list themselves, or they can pay us to do it for them. But it's been a wonderful process, and I will never forget waking up at like the next day, right? Kind of groggy, kind of in and out of it. And my first test results came back the following night that I was able to see on my phone, my MyChart. And 24 hours after transplant, it's 2 a.m. The hospital room is pretty dimly lit. You just hear the beeping of the machines. My dad, who came with me, he went back to the hotel for the night. And I see on my phone, the first time my GFR said 55, which is the GFR essentially of a normal functioning kidney in person. And I just broke down in tears. I've never had such joyous, tears in my life. And my goal, my job here, is to help as many other people get that feeling through faster transplants. That's what we've done at Transplant Coach, and we'll continue to do so. We've helped over 100 people at this point, and I remember feeling so alone throughout that journey. So alone, like no one could understand what it felt like to feel your body decay and break down in real time, and you being powerless to do something about it. It's one of the worst feelings in the world, and on the flip side, it is also one of the most motivating and empowering feelings. And I see this every day in the people I talk to and help with Transplant Coach, who use our service, and I see it every day in the people I follow who share their kidney journeys. And I wish I had documented it like they did. I have some old pictures, I'll share, and some content coming up, but we're here. And we now live in a different era where social media gives information to you instantly. People have way more options for education than they ever thought possible. And so through my family, through motivation, through my friends, through my coworkers at the time, we pulled it off. And it's not easy. And my heart goes out to everyone who's still on that journey. And so that's my personal story. That's how I ended up having kidney failure and what came of it. And as you guys know, kidney failure is not curable. So the transplant hopefully will last for a very long time, but it's more likely than not that we'll have to go through this process again. And that's okay, because the second time around, I will be even more prepared. I will be even more ready, and medical technology advances every day. So I'm truly optimistic. Thank you guys, and talk soon.